So good morning, everyone. Today is our second podcast with Natalia and Amanda, and we're super excited that you can join us today. So today we have a really special guest coming on to our show, Michele Davis. She'll be joining us in a few, and we'll be digging into what has inspired her, what motivates her, and kind of wrap in our topic for the month, which is time management. Just kind of digging in and seeing what she's used to find her flow. I'm actually super excited to have her on the show. It's really great to have her talk to her and just like kind of get into her mindset about how she started her podcast and everything. So super excited to share that
She's
with you
ahead of
guys.
us with the podcast, right? So we're gonna be able to learn from her.
I'm just getting started, I know.
So I actually met Michele a few years back in the Keller Williams office out in Bay Ridge. That's how I know her. And we've stayed in touch over the years. And I would say like there's a lot of vendors that have been in and out of the office, right? And they present at our meetings or they just show up to introduce themselves and their services. And she has always kept, I guess, like a space top of mind in my head.
It must have resonated with you because, for her to be like, top of head in your mind and where you're supposed to be thinking about her,
And I think it's just like similar stories, right? She's a mom, she's working, she's a hustler, she's doing what she needs to do and, continually growing. And maybe that's why we get along so well. So I'm super excited to have her on here. Hi, Michele.
Hi, Michele.
Michele, thank you for joining us.
Michele, we're so excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's get started.
Let's dive right in. Yeah. Michele, I was looking at listening to some of your podcasts, and one of the things I really wanted to give you time is just introduce yourself to the audience, explain to us about your podcast and how you started the podcast and where you went from. Natalia had mentioned that she met you through Keller Williams and you were doing inspections, and how did that come about?
Sure. So my name is Michele Davis. I'm originally from New York. I've lived in other places, and I always say my greatest accomplishments in living in all these culturally diverse places like New Mexico and California is I learned how to make salsa. Didn't learn Spanish, didn't learn anything else, but I learned how to make salsa and to enjoy great food. But when I think about my journey, prior to actually doing marketing and everything I do now, I had a regular 9 to 5 for most of my life. And, I raised kids with that regular 9 to 5. I was in the nonprofit world. And for a good portion of that time in nonprofit services, I was a nonprofit manager. So I was responsible for leading teams and managing programs. And when we talk about nonprofit, we're talking about no day being the same because when you're dealing with populations that, have challenges, which is the reason they're getting services in the first place, you don't know what you're walking into. So everything you had planned for that day can easily go out the window. So you have to know how to bounce back, from anything that can happen. So I found myself, I would say, after doing a whole bunch of stuff, in a previous life, I also ran a domestic violence shelter. Yeah, I did that for like 7 years. And that was actually my first taste of like branding and marketing because we had to hustle to get donations and, money flowing in because our women came in with nothing. So it was a lot of networking, getting out there, building this amazing website and giving us an identity so that we could get those donations. And, after some time, I found myself in a position where I wasn't fully supported, and it was like a toxic work environment. And the interesting thing is, I had mentioned I had someone on my team that was, I was a new manager coming in, and I remember her saying how she was in a toxic work environment, and she couldn't do her job, and I couldn't understand and fathom that. because I'm like, did something, catastrophic happen here? And that wasn't the case. And then when I found myself in my own toxic work environment, it all made sense because it does hamper you in, from being productive in your job. But I was in this toxic work environment and I walked away. I walked away. It was like, it was like kind of like one day I went in and it wasn't the worst thing that had happened, but it was the last straw. And I walked off that job, which
Good for
I
you.
don't recommend, by the way. Because when I walked off, I found myself, sitting on my couch and I'm like, what do I do next? Right? I was over 40.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you just can't, walk off your job. And then I'm calling people for support. And they said, just go back for your job back. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, at some point I have to have some dignity
Mhm.
and figure out what's next. So I decided to start a business. And for a while I
And
did
it's so
marketing.
scary to like just quit your 9 to 5 job, where you used to pay a paycheck at on the 15th or the 30th of every month, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you don't have that,
I
I
know it's
guess.
gonna be consistent, right?
Yeah, yeah. Especially if
But I
you have a
will say
child.
this, sorry, I will say this, like, environment is everything though,
Hmm.
whether it's professional or personal. So even though like it might be hard in the beginning, I feel like if you change your environment, you're gonna thrive better and faster versus being stuck in that environment where it's like it's a drag or you're uncomfortable or mistreated or disrespected, I think it's important.
Right, right. And I think it takes so much courage,
Yes,
that
a
you
lot of
a lot
courage.
of courage to go from like, what you so are used to from 9 to 5 every day, and like I guess this ability, and going off onto your own and trying to establish your own
I
business.
have a question. Did
Yes.
you ever take a minute to celebrate that?
No, no. I jumped right into what is going to happen next. I sat on my couch the day I quit and walked off that job and I said, what am I going to do? And I decided I was going to start a business.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't even have any independent contractors that I was in regular contact with to say,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
So guys,
And yeah, I fell flat on my face a few times and I ended up starting a website and branding company and that's in marketing. We did a lot of marketing and that's how I met Natalia. And one of the people that I built the marketing for was a home inspection company. And so yeah, so I established the field marketing for that company and which entailed me building a lot of relationships with real estate agents like Natalia and companies like Keller Williams. And then eventually that evolved into business coaching based on the success I had with my website branding and marketing agency. And now I'm here as a business coach, which
Now
I've
we
been doing
celebrate.
for,
I know.
We need to
yeah.
celebrate
Yes.
that
Yay!
moment, that decision that
Yes.
you made to step out of that, in a way, comfort zone, right? It's a
Oh
comfort zone
gosh,
to stick
yes.
in a 9 to 5. It's a comfort zone to just, um, yeah, stay complacent. Like it's toxic, but it feels safe, so I'm going to stay here, right? And you made that bold decision to just say, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to move forward. And look at
Yeah,
where you're at now.
Mhm.
yes, it's exciting. And, when we think about time management and we think about who we are and what we're trying to achieve, I didn't do a lot of things. I didn't manage my time well in my 9 to 5 because I was always thrown off, by the day.
Yeah.
What catastrophic thing is happening? Which client is totally lost it? What emergency or fire that I have to put out?
Yeah.
And that transferred into my business life as well. Because
Yeah.
if I didn't have a way or of managing what I had to do.
Right. It sounds like you were wearing many hats in your 9 to 5 job, and that gave you the foundation because you were able to pivot every day because every day was different, and because you had that experience and you were able to just be flexible and of course, having time management is a challenge in the beginning, but I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Mhm.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I know how much of a challenge it is. And so when I work with clients, I always give them a schedule. And I have a little segment on, what it means to have a schedule and what it means to manage your time. And when I think about like managing your time and being, because we never feel like we can do it all, right? Even if our day goes perfect, we always feel like we haven't done enough that day.
Yes.
And we're
And
trying to fill the space too. Like
right, we're
there's
trying
times
to,
when I'm like, oh, I'm done early. What else
Right.
can I do? Like why can't I just be okay in that space of not doing anything?
Right,
Right?
right. Just
yeah.
just chill, relax for a little bit, you know?
Or fit in self-care. And one
There
of
you
the,
go. Exactly.
yeah, the first thing, you have to know is you have to know what are your activities. What is it that's essential to your success? So, for business, if you're independent contractor or, that's, different for you than someone who's still in a 9 to 5. If I'm in a 9 to 5, what are the essentials? And I have to think personally and professionally as well. What is it that I have to get done every day for me to feel like I achieved or accomplished what I set out to accomplish that day? And if you're an independent contractor, whether you're just getting started or you're in full swing in your business, you have to kind of think of things combined. What is it, what do I have to do? So, for people that are in business, maybe it's lead generation. Maybe it's, how many calls you have to make, how many follow-ups you have to make, putting together marketing materials. And for a woman that's 9 to 5, sometimes it's just survival, getting up and, getting in the
So
shower.
true, I know.
Yeah, like we
Showering,
have
put on
those
the makeup.
survival. Yes, we have those survival type of days. But part of knowing what we have to do is knowing how much time it takes to do it. So, so that you could be realistic
Mhm.
as you map out and plan your day. Because we get stuck like doing things, and next thing you know, we were spending too much time on nonsense. Like I just came back from a mastermind in
Yeah.
Orlando, and we were all, doing our presentations, and everybody was all spread out all over the mansion, working on their presentations respectfully. So I remember passing by one of the speakers, and I saw that they were in fully engaged in like a game. And I was like, I thought you were working on your presentation. It's like, oh, I
Got
can't,
sidetracked.
yeah, but they're allowing themselves to get sidetracked. That's the thing, and nobody says you can't like play a game, but make sure it's not, an hour or 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah. So if you need that
The downtime,
motivation,
taking that downtime, right, is
Mhm.
always a good thing. It's like a recharge. Like we need,
right.
you know.
Yeah, and play if you need to play a game, I always say play that game. You have some entrepreneurs that'll say, "Oh, you can't be successful if you're playing games. You can't be successful if you're watching Netflix." But the reality is we're human. We need to have something to relax our minds at the end of the day. So the first thing I would say is identify what you have to do and think about how much time it is, and think about your life in both personal and professional, like what am I doing with the kids? What am I doing with the husband, boyfriend, whomever? And, make sure you know what that is. The next thing is that I share with my clients is determine your availability. So you know what it is you have to do, you know how much time it's going to take. How are you spending your day is the next step. So think about like, because a lot of people jump into like, oh, I need to, manage my time better. I'm finding that I'm wasting time, losing time, but they don't even know what they do in a given day. So, what I advise my clients to do is to take the time to jot down how they're spending their day. What do they do when they wake
Go
up?
for it.
Yeah, what are they doing, throughout the day? Because I guarantee you, for all the people that say they don't have time, is there's pockets in the day that you can do
True.
things.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a client, actually in the last couple of weeks because there was, when you work with me, it's an intensive experience. And so one of the things that I'm supposed to be reviewing for her, she looked like she had just put it together that morning. And I was like, what happened?
Right.
What happened? And
You
she
could
was like,
tell.
oh,
You can tell, yeah.
yeah. She was like, oh, I was running around with my daughter and, I had to do some things with the kids. And I was like, okay, so let's talk about what time are you setting aside, to complete what you need to complete for your coaching? Because if you can't do it now in the coaching, at the coaching level, what happens when we're no longer working together and no one's going to be reviewing what you're doing, right? So, make sure you understand the pockets of time and commit to it. So that may look like you sharing with your family, listen, mommy has to work on XYZ. Can you give me 30 minutes? Or maybe while dinner's cooking, how long it takes you to maybe follow up. So schedule some follow-ups. And, one of the big things I do is I don't do a lot of my work in real time. And that's part of being productive is knowing how scheduling features, whether you're using AI or, like scheduling out your emails, there's a lot you can do. And, in a short period of time, if you have a system.
I
So
have,
yeah.
so in the past with my coach that I had previously, she had me download a tracker,
Hmm.
an app, and she wanted me to track in real time, basically my entire day. And we did it probably for, I want to say over a month. I don't think it was a few weeks. I think it was over a
It's a
month.
lot, yeah.
And so first, it took time for me to remember to, it has you like you start, it's like a stopwatch almost. And then you label what you're doing during that time. So like the first week was adjusting to like actually marking what I'm doing throughout the day. But
Everything, right?
yeah, and then it gives you like a little chart so you could see like how much time you spent maybe doing nothing or like how much time I spent doing lead generation, how much time I spent commuting, because I put that as one as well, how much time I spent with my daughter, like every part of my day, right? And what helped me is she was like, what I see is that your daughter is very important. Like you make time for her, right? And like I was like, well, yeah, I hope that's not a problem. But
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
also saying, like, well, what I realized is that she's like, we might have aimed too high with your goals. And that was, I was like,
And
threw
that
me
was,
off. I was like,
and,
you're my coach. You're supposed to tell me.
and that was okay because it made you realize that
Right. Like
you're
it's like getting a perspective on like the whole picture, right? Because when you're in it, you're not seeing it. But this kind of like it stepped out. We could see where all my time was spent. And then she motivated, inspired me to realize, okay, like how can I still make it work? And like we decided to aim for higher price points, right? So then maybe I get the same amount of money or more with less skills.
right, right. So
And like
she's
that was
trying to
helpful.
readjust what your goals are so you don't feel like you're disappointing yourself when you don't hit those goals, but
Yeah.
you adjust your, I guess, your mindset and your perception
Yeah.
of like your actual goal
So
changes.
yeah, I agree that it's helpful to know like where's your time being spent? Like how are you using your time first of all? And like we have a lot of blind spots when we're in it
Mhm.
on our day to day because we're just like go, 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 go. Right?
Yeah, and we never map it out. We never know what is it that we're doing. Why are we so busy? And a lot of times, at least when I first did it, I was like, I didn't realize I was spending so much time like doing something so senseless or
Yeah.
nonsense.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like being busy and being productive. Right.
Right,
And it's
right.
okay if you're being productive, giving self-care.
Yeah.
If that makes
Yeah.
sense, right? Like there's as long as you're following, like there's a purpose to it. I think that's what's
Exactly.
most important.
And you mentioned something that was really key too. You mentioned, looking at your price point. I always, share with, my clients and anyone that I meet that's in business is, you're either going to spend a lot of time working with a lot of people at a low price point, or
Yeah.
you're going to, work with less people more intensely at a higher price point. You have to decide how you want to spend your time
Right.
because the people at the lower price point are going to require more of your time. It's a different type of
Right.
client. It's a
Yeah.
different type of person you're
Right.
working with, as opposed to someone who's high value, They're going to, in terms of the price, not in terms of the quality as a person, but
Right, right,
yeah, in terms of
And the funny thing is, I'm actually realizing this, this, I guess, stage in my path or career is to actually do what Natalia said, look for the higher price points rather than go, 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 and try to do like 10 to 20 transactions, maybe have 5 meaningful transactions and still hit that target of mine.
yeah, and you'll find that you're doing the same activities. Why not spend them working and getting more,
yeah.
for your
Harder.
time?
And
Right.
well, the
Working smarter,
crazy,
yes.
yeah, you're still doing the same thing to get the home sold, right? Get the buyer, get the seller, the seller,
Seller.
the seller. Right? You're still doing the same steps and the same, but sometimes the co-ops are actually a less price point and you're doing
More
more,
work.
Because
know?
of those boards that don't
Yes,
get
yes.
all the
I mean,
hoops you have to jump.
I never refuse business, but I would prefer to just do a single family home, a multifamily home, a condo, than a co-op
Same
any
thing.
day.
Of course, yeah.
Unless you're gonna be buying like a $5 million co-op somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It takes more time.
It takes a lot of
It
time.
takes a lot more research, right? Getting all the right stuff for them.
Energy, talking to the, buyers, the sellers, the boards, and getting everything ready, the package. All that is so time consuming.
Mhm.
But like you said, I don't just turn down business, but
Right.
it's just the amount of work you do.
It's also like what you're aiming towards, like what I'm going after is going to be a higher price point. If I get a
Right.
referral for something that might be at a lower price point, I'm not going to say no. I have
Exactly.
the time, I'm going to take it, right? But it's also like focusing on like what you're going after, and
Right.
still accepting what comes to you at the same time.
Yeah, the other thing is if you're just starting out, you need to like get your experience in and
Absolutely.
learn
Yep.
what it takes to sell a co-op and learn your
Yeah.
place in that business
Right.
to see what it is you want to focus on because there's so many niche areas in real estate as well.
Yeah.
And every deal is totally different, So like you
Mhm.
said, you're starting out, you need to understand the little nuances of each and every transaction. So you gain more experience, so you're able to like, react and find solutions for your clients.
So
Absolutely.
are you like a pencil, paper type of person?
Good question.
Are you
No, not
software
at all.
digital? Or did that switch at all? Like, did you
It switched.
transition?
I used to be one of those people that had the calendar, the physical calendar,
Like a
and I
planner?
would, yeah, a planner. I love
I'm
those.
still
Yes,
that, I'm still that person.
You know, I've had a handful of those that never really got used. Maybe like a page or two, and then they just got tossed to the side somewhere.
I was gonna draw my calendar for you guys to see.
Do you have it or
I
no?
have a planner and I have a digital calendar in my phone and my challenge is trying to merge the calendars because I have my family calendar, I have my personal calendar, and I have my work calendar. And I have like little post-its posted everywhere and like I love seeing my handwriting on the little calendar, but then I can never actually get what I write into my digital calendar. So sometimes I will miss something, and think, oh my
absolutely.
gosh, I forgot this.
Because you're juggling multiple
Exactly.
multiple processes,
Exactly.
and
So this
so
this time with you and with Natalia is a great reminder for me to get my act together
I use my
and
Google
just use
Calendar.
one. So, that's my goal this year to just use one and stick with it.
And there's a few things that I do. I mean, I was one of those planner people too. I had the one that the big planner that you could actually, it was like loose leaf. You had your planner, you had your notes and all of that. And once I got into business, I had to shift because I was missing things. I was over, booking, double booking. I found myself being stressed out because I had to rearrange things
Yep.
and some things. Here's what I did. I created a schedule and it's a central schedule. So I have personal things happening in my life, with my daughter, and I have my business things happening. And I also have self-care things happening as well. And so my calendar and the calendar that I share with my clients is, what are you doing from the time you wake up? So I even put down what time am I waking up
Yeah.
on my calendar. So when we talk about what is our availability, we can't see that if it's in three different places.
Yeah.
And we have to see it in a central place because there's things happening with our kids, there's things
Yep.
happening with family,
Right.
travel, like what is happening in our life. And so I have a master calendar.
Yeah.
So the first thing, create a schedule, and then I automate that schedule. Oh, and another thing I want to say, what should be included in your schedule is your self-care time.
Yeah.
And for me, self-care may be prayer, meditation. What time am I doing that? So that I get my body in the habit of carrying out those duties instead of or participating or engaging in those activities
Okay.
because it's so easy to get off track if you don't know when things are happening.
I like to say if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. It has to
Exactly.
be on my calendar, and like even little things, I will still put it on there. And they're also color coded. So
Oh, I
that
love
helps
that.
me. So maybe it
Yes.
can help you as well as
I'm
like
gonna try to do that.
my daughter has her own color,
Mhm.
work has its own
Yes,
color.
yes.
If it's urgent, it's red. Red means like this has to happen no matter what.
I love that.
And like I think when I glance at my calendar, my brain already processes like go to red first, right? And then I'll go through whatever else.
I love that. I think I definitely need to put down, like what Michelle said, is put down self-care. And for me, self-care is like going out for a walk or taking like even just like 15
Your morning, right?
my morning, even just 15-30 minutes if I can't go for a walk, just to do some exercise, prayer, or just
Stretch, audiobook,
audiobook
some
or
Tony
music.
Robbins. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
The other
true
thing
though,
yeah.
because then we over. I feel like if you look back at past generations, a lot of women didn't have that. Like it almost seems like it would be taboo for a woman or a mother to take that time
To
for
just
herself.
enjoy a cup of coffee by herself in silence,
Yeah, and like we need to break that. We need to recreate that it's okay because that little time, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, makes a huge difference on how you're going to show up the rest of the day or the rest of the
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah. And we have it ingrained in our mind that we feel guilty if
Yes.
we
Yeah,
engage in something that
I
we
think it's
enjoy
selfish
doing.
or something.
Yeah.
I think it's
Another, oh,
because
go
we're
ahead.
women, right? We're just
Yeah.
ingrained to overdo,
We're caretakers.
do too much.
We
We
nurture.
nurture,
We want to take care of everybody.
Right.
But ourselves.
But
Yeah.
ourselves, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I do is, and it's in my schedule, is I do a wind down. So the wind down is recording what did I accomplish and what is going to carry over into
Oh, not
the next
actually.
day. Oh yeah. Well,
Oh my God.
that's nice too. You're like,
Oh
I
my
know she
God.
was naughty. She was like, yes. No, like a wind with a D at the end.
Wind it down.
Wind down
With a D, yes.
Sorry,
with
go
a
ahead.
D. And I actually, identify what did I accomplish today and what needs to carry over into the next day so that I can know, that hey, this needs to, I need to follow up on this.
You do this daily.
I do it daily. Yeah, because with me and everything that's happening, if I don't
That's great to know.
identify what I have to do the next day, it gets lost. Even
Do
like,
you do you wind down like a certain time of the day, like after dinner, before bed?
at the end of my workday. So I have a weird workday. I know that in the morning I'm doing stuff with my daughter. And so maybe, I start at 1 o'clock and I go to maybe 8.
Yeah.
Because, after a certain time in the day, she's a teenager. She kicks me to the curb. She disappears. But because I know what I'm doing, I can always pick it back up if something changes, if she wants to sit and, talk or, something like that. So I can always shift because I know what's on my schedule. I know what I have to do. I know what's important, as Natalia mentioned, priorities. And I use a lot of AI in how I operate my business. One thing I did is I
Tell us
created
more
a,
about that
Yeah, tell us
part.
about more
yeah,
part, yes. We're
I
trying to
create,
incorporate it more into our podcast and our lives as well too.
So she
yeah,
just came back, right, from the mastermind. It was around AI.
around
Now that she
AI.
shared her what she's using, how to use it. So
Right.
definitely interested.
Yeah. So one thing I did is I created a bot, to answer my phone.
Is that hard though? Like,
It's tedious, but it's not hard.
okay.
So the bot answers my phone because what happens throughout the day is you either miss calls, sometimes, a lot of times important
A
ones,
lot of times, yes.
and you also have the spammers.
Yes,
And
yes.
you're also getting on the phone with people that are going to waste your time if you're answering that call personally, right?
Okay.
So the bot actually is programmed. I programmed it to ask certain questions. I programmed it
That.
to, essentially qualify who's on the phone.
Right.
And I have two types of bot. One is voice and one is conversational. So the voice one you can call and you can engage in a conversation with my bot, and she's going to direct you to my webinar, or she's going to direct you to book a call,
Wow.
or she's going to share more, about, if you're a real estate agent, she can share more about the property you just listed because you give it a link and you say, learn everything you need to learn about this property. Here's the link.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, so it does it
Because
automatically as
I
well.
feel that's so important because when I'm driving, I let the phone calls go. I get a lot of missed calls do that, right? When I'm my kids, also the phones just go by the wayside as well too. So I miss a lot of calls, but having a bot, like what you said, just to verify the qualified calls from the spammers and
Right.
so
And you
essential.
and you get a transcript. So after the call, okay, you missed the call. Maybe 15 minutes later, you have a moment, you get a transcript of what took place in the call so that you can follow up. If you need a link sent, maybe you have a special link for them to get on the calendar, on your calendar, you can have the bot, you can program it to do all of that.
That's awesome.
And
So helpful, yeah, it's amazing.
then I have the chat bot because we're trying to do everything ourselves. There's so many tools when we talk
Yeah.
about tools.
Okay.
And then I have a chat bot that's text
Okay.
based. And so let's say I know we've heard of keyword automation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
type the word, you know, leads in the comments and
Yeah.
I'll send you over,
It's
the
becoming a lot more
information.
popular.
Right. So with chat automation, you can actually do lead generation, through your posts without having to manually
Yeah.
respond, to people. You could do it through keyword chat. You could also do it if someone sends you a message. So someone sends you a message, you can have the chat bot can respond and engages in conversation with them. And, if your goal with that person is for them to book time with you or to book an appointment, that's the focus. It's going to keep going back to that. So it does what you program it to do. And over time, the more it works with you, the more it learns
Wow.
who you are.
Kind of grows
Because
with you.
yeah, and so it's learning, who you are, and you train it, of course, to do that. And I also automate my schedule. So
Okay.
my process is to, with my marketing and sales, because a lot of times people focus on the marketing piece, but they don't ever get someone to the closing table. And
Yeah.
so what happens when someone reaches out to you, you have to have a process to, get them to the point where you can, you know, pitch them or, say, hey, are you ready to take action?
Like a funnel.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the first part is attraction, but you want to move from attraction to what's next. And so I automate my schedule. And so
Mhm.
between the bots, I have everything working in sync so that let's say my chat bot, engages with them because if they're not engaging with you in the first few minutes, they're just moving on to the next person. Like they're not invested in you in any
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
So,
They always
you know,
tell us too, like the response rate. Like if
less than
I've
five
signed up for
minutes.
different stuff and it's like you need a call within like the first 5 minutes or something crazy.
Yeah, it's called speed to lead. So
Yeah,
if
that's a good term,
if you're
right?
not
Because they're probably not just reaching out to you. They're probably reaching out to you and then moving on to the next person until they get somebody on the phone or somebody that's going to respond to them
Yeah,
and
think
answer whatever
about
questions they have.
Yeah, think about how many times have you had something, fall apart in your house or your apartment. Like you call a plumber, right? That plumber doesn't answer. You
Yeah.
call the next plumber. Same thing, with no matter what you're selling, people are not that invested with you that they're going to wait for you. So I use, voice, I use chat, I automate my schedule so that, and I have a qualifying process in between where I ask, make sure certain questions are asked and they meet certain criteria before I sit down with them or before I hop on a call, if that's the process that I'm doing at that time. And that's really how I automate everything because we try and be, put on this cape and be super women. We try and do everything with the kids and do everything, for everyone else but ourselves. So, just to recap, identify what it is you need to do and determine your availability because you can't have a calendar and a schedule if you don't know when you're available. Merge your personal things in there
Yeah.
and don't try and be a superhero. Create a schedule and, get help, either through AI, automation tools or by getting an assistant. But a lot of things that an assistant would do, you can get AI to do it for you.
That's awesome to know.
Yeah.
I find that's so helpful. Thank you so much. I'm going to be using all that you've taught me to discuss and hopefully get my act together and merge all my three
Get
calendars into one.
and get you off of that paper calendar. Oh my God. Just when you think there's no more that exist.
I always buy one January 1st of every year.
So you have a 2025 paper calendar right
Yes,
now.
I do.
Well,
Oh
I
my
think
God.
too at the same time, it was like I would forget where I would leave some papers, or I would have multiple notebooks, and then it's
Yes.
like, where was this? And I
Yeah.
would forget about it.
Yes.
But another helpful part about the phone, like I just use my Google Calendar, is like I could set the reminder, right? I could set the alarm. So it's just like at this time, this is what I should do, and I just knock it out.
And your post-its are not your to-dos. I used to have a million post-its all over my desk. That is not my to-do list
Mhm.
because then they're not categorized. I'm looking for I know there was something. And if you have 20 post-its
Yeah.
on your desk, like what is that something how are you going to find it? And that's wasting your time. That's time lost.
I'm learning every day.
We're all learning, right? We're always
Yes.
going to be a work in progress.
Yes, yes.
Yes. The minute you think
Always
you have it
growing.
all figured out, then
We're
then you're
always
in
growing and
trouble.
changing for the better. Yes.
Yes. Always grow and always learn.
Awesome. I think that was a really good
That's,
segment.
yeah, we love having you on here and we
We
love having you.
appreciate your time.
We love
Oh,
having you
thank
share
you.
your
Thank you.
experiences and your insightful tidbits. I'm gonna take that to heart and try to utilize a lot of them actually.
So
And
where
get
can
off that
people
paper.
find you? Tell us.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, all under Michele Davis NYC, and it's MicheleDavis NYC, and it's one L as opposed to two when you
Michelle,
think of
yeah.
Michelle. Yeah. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Michele Davis NYC.
I love it. So you also have a webinar coming up, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to mention the podcast too.
Yes,
Tell
more
us.
about it.
The
Yes.
Boss Experience. It's and the is spelled DA. The Boss Experience, and you can find that on all major podcast platforms where I talk about a lot about productivity and just how to launch your business and stay sane in the process. And I have a webinar coming out is specifically for anyone that's thinking about leveraging their expertise and monetizing their success playbook and using AI to do it. Yeah, so that's coming up on April 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, the focus is, how do you map out your system and how do you plug in AI to help you, flow through your system? Because we all have a system, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're selling real estate, you're selling coaching, we have a process to take someone from just learning about us to actually closing them as a client. And so I'm going to run through what my process looks like and how I plug in AI to, make things flow and to be more productive and to close the sale.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I am trying to learn as much about AI as possible.
Same, same.
And it's all about leverage. That's all
Yes.
it is, people get nervous when it comes to AI, and it's because it's not fully known, but
Right.
like I think there's a lot of good benefits that are going to come from it, right?
Yeah, yeah, because we're hearing about all the negatives, but we're not really thinking about, the positives, and we're not thinking about like our own life. Like, what is it? How can I use this technology to help me and my business and my life? Even if you're using a 9 to 5, there's free tools to create things for your business. I mean, we're so used to Canva. Canva has incorporated a lot of AI, because even in the nonprofit world, Canva was just kind of people were just starting to use it
Right.
when
Yeah.
I was
I'm actually
leaving.
using Canva and AI more as well too.
Well, let's just talk about like if you are working a 9 to 5 and you want to make the shift, right? You don't have all that extra time, but you could set up automation, use
Right.
AI to create something on the side
Mhm.
while you kind of
Right.
transition out of that 9 to 5 into
You want to do?
whatever you're planning
Yeah.
to do. I just feel like there's so many options nowadays for people to build a business.
Oh, yes.
AI.
And I always tell people, figure out what it is you enjoy because we've never been asked that question. We've never thought about it because a lot of times people jump into stuff, they don't enjoy it. I did the same thing because, when I sat there and wanted on my couch wanting to start this business, I had no idea where to start because it's just like looking at the sky and say, hey, I wonder where I'm going to start, because there's so much going on. There's so many places to jump into. But think about what is it that you enjoy doing? What is it you're passionate about? And that's what you focus on. And just and just figure out, if you're going to focus on that, focus on one thing. Gary Keller has the book, The One Thing. Even if you're not in real estate, it's a great book to read because we focus. We think, we need to jump out and do multiple streams of income. And what happens is you end up earning nothing because your focus is in too many different places. Focus on one thing and focus on solving a problem for one specific audience. And that's where you start. So if you're doing e-com, what are you doing? Who are you focused? Where, what are you selling into whom? And it'll be much easier because there's so many ways to leverage what you know or to have a business. It doesn't have to be coaching. It doesn't have to be real estate. It can be, it can be something on Etsy or, learning the industry, learning one industry, focusing in on one thing and that solves a problem for one specific audience.
And then really quick about your webinar, because you said selling your expertise, correct?
Yes, it's going to focus on selling your expertise. So, whether you're in real estate or whether you're, whatever industry you're in, you have a
Yeah.
success playbook, right?
Yeah.
You have a playbook for how you sold your first $1 million home.
Right.
And you have people that are just coming on that don't know how to do what you already did.
Right.
Mhm.
So how do you create what does your playbook look like?
So,
And
sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
no, you go ahead.
I have been seeing a lot more of this happening, like people selling their expertise. And there was one webinar or something I joined on, and it was even talking about how somebody started um, what is it, like a class, a series, right? Of how they make like sourdough bread or something like that. And even some like I'm just saying this so people can like expand their mind on like what's possible is like what do you know how to do? Like what can you do well? And then creating a
And
course on
nothing
it and
is too
selling
small.
that
Nothing is
course.
too small, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right. Yeah.
and I forgot how many I don't remember the number, but it was something insane, like millions of sales on this
Sourdough
course,
bread.
on a course on how to make sourdough bread. And even with that, it was like they recorded it one time, right? So like you're not constantly doing it. Like you're creating one like course and like you're just reselling it to whoever's interested in buying that course.
And you can resell it on autopilot with AI because
Yeah.
you without ever having to really engage, you have your payment system set up. But another big thing, when I say, think about what is it you're passionate about, because some people say passion doesn't matter. You don't want to end up, having another job for yourself. Enjoy what you do, but couponing,
Oh,
things are
yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Things are expensive. So
Yes.
couponing, if you're a couponer and you've been successful at it,
You figured
you
it
know,
out.
yeah, map out the steps so you can teach someone else. And don't make it confusing, because the goal is not to teach someone to go from 0 to 1 million in
Right.
revenue, but what can you teach someone in a very simplistic manner so that someone else can understand and monetize it. So monetizing your success playbook, if you're looking for, you know, income, think about like even like people in nonprofit. Were you a successful fundraiser?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's struggling nonprofits that are trying to figure out how to raise funds, or
Right.
how to host a fundraiser. You have people that are teaching people how to, create, things that you would sell on Etsy, whether it's the PNGs. I actually have an Etsy store from like years. And yeah, and I just haven't let it go because I find it relaxing to create it, and it doesn't really require any effort from me. But yeah, but you have people, even showing people how to do that. Do you know how to craft?
Yeah.
People want to know, especially if you have something that's going to save people money, you're solving a big problem for people. I
Yeah.
would love to know how to take in, my daughter's skirt right now. I bought a skirt that was too big,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to, other than taking it to like a cleaners and paying more for, to have it taken in than the skirt probably cost.
Pause, right?
Right. It's so
I
true.
know.
Yeah, but if I knew, like if I found something, there's so many things that people need. Uber Suggest is a good tool, ubersuggest.com, UBER suggest.com. And you can type in something and see what people are searching for. And, Answer the Public is
Gonna
another
find
one.
that gap. Where is there a gap?
Yeah, where is there a gap? What can you do that's unique? Because you just don't want to show up as like the, 1 zillionth people doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions?
No, I just wanted to tell Michelle, like, thank you so much. You've been so insightful, and I love your podcast, The Boss Experience. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's wonderful. I particularly love your interview with Sheena Cantor. A wonderful podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
And we look
you.
forward to having you again in the future.
Yes.
You know, every month we're focused on changing the topic, right? The
Yeah.
focus for the month, right? Right now we're doing time management. I forget what April is, but each month we're
Each
changing
month,
it. So we can always throw them out to you, see if you ever want to join again. Be happy to have you.
Right. It's been,
Right.
I love your podcast. I think when you talk to your guests, they're insightful, and they're just so like little nuggets of wisdom, and just your voice is so soothing and powerful. So I really love your podcast. So
Oh, thank
kudos to
you.
you for starting it and having the courage to go from a 9 to 5 and just starting your own business. You're killing it.
And you
Thank
come off very
you.
personable. So we did the intro before you jumped on, and I was telling Amanda, and when we were recording, it's just like we met in Keller Williams. You were one of the vendors to come in and speak. We have hundreds probably over the years that we get to
Yeah.
come in and speak, but you've always stood out. You know, you're one of the ones that I've stayed in touch with. We've connected on social media.
Yeah.
And that's because like there's just something about you. Like you're very personable. You're a joy to be around, you know?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm relationships are the core of anything, your life, your business, and it's the key to success. Everything is not a transaction. The transactions will come when you build the relationships.
Totally.
100% agree. Well, perfect. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Michelle.
And I'm gonna put that webinar on my calendar too.
Me as well.
Great. I hope to see you there and hope to see, members of your audience there as well. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Enjoy your day.
Okay. You too. And be productive.
Yes. Before we jump off, let's do a still frame. We want to
Okay.
smile and I'll screenshot it. Okay. Perfect. Oh wait. Oh no, am I gonna me do it without my mouse. Okay, got it.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Yes,
You
so
too.
so wonderful to have you.